today. Welcome to our Sunday photography live stream where we talk about photography and I answer any questions you might have and also just catch up with the community, see how you're doing. I'm doing well. Happy holidays to everyone. It's good to see you. I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. Um, so busy, right, during the holidays with family and friends and events and things. And I just got back from an event from last night. Uh, wow, I was really in bad shape, but pictures I think came out okay. I'll see if I can share a couple from that. I haven't really processed them yet, but uh, those of you that do event photography, you know how it is, right? But I do have a little tip and trick, and then let me know if the audio and video is okay as well. Um, always do a sound and mic check. I think we're okay. But I see a lot of people here. I see Serge and Darko and Wayne and Zach. Good to see you, Bert. Hello. And wow, there's a lot of things here. And as always, I like the audience or your viewers here to drive the conversation um, because there's so many topics out there to talk about. And if I pick one, it'll probably just be one that everyone is already probably know more than I do about. So I don't keep up with a lot of the rumors and things down the pipeline coming. But I did see something about OM Systems from the 43 Rumors guy releasing something maybe in 2025. So we'll see. And they say it's the kind of the make it or break it for OM Systems. And I don't see it that way. I mean, I'm so happy with the gear that I'm using. Like I used the OM1 last night and it performed flawlessly. I mean, it was perfect. I mean, there's the occasional missed shot, the occasional misfire on the flash, which is probably a Godox thing, but uh, I that's why I always take two pictures minimum of every couple or group, uh, and most of the time I'd have two sharp pictures, but once in a while one will be a little bit off, but not very often. And I was working in low light, so this is my tip for OM system users, and I'll try and do a video on this uh, to quantify it. But I noticed that, and I don't know if Robin Wong has tried this because he does a lot of event photography and was struggling with the OM1 autofocus in low light. But this is something you guys might want to try. And this, I think, this works for all of the Olympus OM system cameras. Actually, I noticed it on my other cameras, but I only think about it a couple of times a year because I don't do events that often. But if you turn on the night vision, so that you can see the display without any exposure adjustments made. So it's just giving you regular sort of like optical viewfinder type views. So try optical viewfinder or try night vision. I would try night vision, and I think I forget what it's called on the EM1 live. I can't remember what it's called, but it's not night vision in the EM1. It's something else. Uh, Something to do with the live view. Oh my God, my brain, it's gone. I'm toast. But if you turn night vision on, man, the autofocus is like, I don't know what it is. If the face detect autofocus relies on what the live view is seeing, right, when it's in night vision mode, versus if I use the regular exposure mode, meaning I turn off night vision, I'm seeing the exposure as it's set. Because I'm using flash, it's a lot of times way underexposed and completely dark. And it's not seeing my face. But as soon as I turn night vision on, man, that thing locked on my face and my eye like this when I was testing at home. And so I used it at the event last night vision on the whole time. And which is what I normally do with flash anyway. But it really hit me yesterday or 2 days ago when I was, I prep a little bit before every event. I practice because I'll get into that. But when I was doing this with my practicing at home, I didn't turn the night vision on, and it was just struggling to see my face because the live view was black. It was very, very dark. So I turned the night vision on, and then man, I got that square and a little box on my eye just like that, and it was locking on every time. So that's what kind of reminded me. So I thought I'd share that before I forget again, because I just don't remember things, because I set up the custom mode. So for the event, I practiced a little because they wanted to do pictures in front of a Christmas tree, and what I wanted to do was not blow out the lights on the Christmas tree while I'm using flash, right? Which would be very easy to do. So I practiced different exposure settings, ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and different flash powers, different distances, and you know, logically, I was trying to problem solve for this particular lighting situation because I've never done photos, professionally speaking, where I'm getting paid of people in front of a Christmas tree specifically, because that's kind of their tradition, is to take pictures in front of this Christmas tree. I've done events before where there's Christmas trees, but I never considered the lighting of the Christmas tree itself, right? So I said, okay, let me try and figure this out. So a couple of things. I had to bring the flashes as close as possible, not because I wanted softer light or anything. I was just using some 32-inch umbrellas, nothing fancy, and my Godox V1s. And because then the light fall off from the flash is faster. So it hits their face, and then behind their face is the tree, right? So if you know the inverse square law, lighting falls off very quickly the closer it is to the source. It's brighter, but it falls off very quickly. So I used a lower power, obviously. I was like at 1/128th power, like minimum power on all the flashes for the portraits. And then and the other thing is I lowered the shutter speed down to 1/60th of a second for most of them, and then f2.8 because that was my 12 to 40 Pro lens, and ISO 400, right, to bring in a little bit more ambient light, because you don't want the picture to look like a flash, right? You want it to look natural, and but if you just do natural light shots, people's faces are going to be too dark. And if you overexpose a little bit to bring up their faces, then the background is not going to look right. And what's going to happen, you have to use too high of an ISO, too slow of a shutter speed. Because if you're going to shoot people, you have to be at minimum 1/125th of a second. Otherwise, you get motion blur. But when you're using flash, I can drop that down a little bit because flash is providing most of the light to their face, but then the ambient light, because of the fall off of the inverse square law, is fine. So I got a couple of really, like I said, I've only edited a few of them, and they were coming out really good. Uh, Much better than what I was seeing in the EVF and on the screen. Because when I was taking the pictures in the field, at the event, I was looking at the back of the screen. I'm like, ah, ah, and this is a very common complaint that I hear from a lot of photographers, and it's not just OM Systems. It's every camera. It's like what I see in the live viewer or in the EVF doesn't match what I see on my computer screen. And it was very, very evident last night when I was shooting, and then looked at the images when I got home. I was like, oh, thank God, these are much better than that I was seeing on the back of the screen. Because on the back of the screen they were too contrasty. They were they look like flash pictures. I mean, they all look like you use flash. If you have a trained eye, you're a photographer, you can look at a picture and know I used flash. But to the client who's not, you know, a photographer, generally speaking, they're going to look at it and say, "Oh, that's great." I can see everything. Everything's nice and sharp. So that's that was my night last night. But I got to tell you, when I when I had to be at the event. The event is only 15 miles from my house. Okay, it wasn't that far. So I said, okay, I got to be there around 5:30. It's a little, it's a little wiggle room there because the event started around 6 o'clock. So I said, okay, I'll get there at 5:30. It's going to take me 10 minutes to set up. I already know what my settings are because I always prep uh, before events or jobs that I don't, the kind of jobs that I don't do very often. I prep the day before, set up my custom modes. I practice here at my house so that when I get to the event, my camera settings are 90% there, and then I just have to make a few adjustments based on the space, right? So, right at 5 o'clock, I start loading my car up because I figure, 20 minutes to get there. And I go on the Google Maps, and it's like 40-minute drive. I'm like, what the hell? It's only 15 minutes from my house. It's mostly highway. Why is it freaking 40 minutes? So now I'm rushed, right? But I'm like, okay, so I'll get there at 5:40, 5:45. Still plenty of time to set up two flashes and start taking pictures, right? I get in my car, I push start, the battery is dead. I'm like, oh, are you serious? And I get out my battery jumper cables. They didn't do anything. The battery is so dead that the jumper cables I had that are battery powered did nothing. Did absolutely nothing. The battery just drained more. So I'm like, oh crap. So now I'm down like another 10 minutes trying to start my car, right? So I was like, screw it. So I took the gear out. It was just two bags, right? I talked about this in my stream yesterday, my shopping stream, my little K&F bag here, OM1, Godox V1 with the 12 to 40 Pro mounted, and the extra lens I brought was my 35 to 100, which I ended up not needing too much. This fits everything, in a nice little shoulder bag. And then I had my lighting gear, right? That must have weighed 50 pounds because you got to carry the sandbags, right, and stuff with the light stands. And I actually I always bring an extra light stand. Uh, so I brought three light stands, three flashes, two umbrellas, and that was it basically. With the S2 brackets for the Godox flashes. So I pull out my two bags, my light stand bag and my carry-on, my shoulder bag. Throw it in the back. Luckily, I have two cars. I have this Jeep that I bought from Walter like 10 years ago. It was already 10 years old, so my Jeep was like 20 years old. But I threw everything into my Jeep and hauled ass out there, and I got there right there. Ended up getting there right at 5:45, and was able to set up and start taking pictures, and everything went smooth. But one thing I didn't pay attention to was I had this very, very mild headache before I left the house. And I meant to take a ibuprofen. Oh my God, my head was pounding, pounding about an hour into the event because then they started the dance floor and the music was loud. And I don't expect it, right? Well, I guess I kind of expect it, but I try not to set expectations. I don't assume, right? Let me put it this way. I don't assume this, but I expect it. But I don't make the assumption that I can eat when I'm there because everybody else is eating. And it's right around dinner time and I didn't eat. I had like a potato for lunch. And I said, okay, yeah, oh my God, the food looks so good. Oh my God, the food looks so good. It was at this really fancy country club. I should have charged more. But I was only there for 2 hours, but I should have charged more. Anyhow, they had some kind of they had people could choose like beef or fish or chicken, and it just, oh my God, I'm getting hungry thinking about it. And then the it was like a 3 or 4 course meal, right? It felt like, because they had soup and salad, then they had their main course, and then they had dessert. But I felt like there was something else in between that too. And of course, open bar, uh, all of that stuff. And I didn't get nothing. I had to like go to the kitchen and ask them, "Can I get a bottled water, please?" So I got this bottled water, hoping to mitigate this pounding head. Fortunately, when I was working the event, the um, my mind was not on my headache, but on doing the job, right? So it didn't interfere with me too much, but by, you know, well into the second hour, because in the first hour it was building, and then in the second hour it was really pounding. Towards the end of that second hour before I left, I just, it was, because it had slowed down for me photo wise, because people were done taking pictures in front of the tree. So I was just going around the tables and taking pictures of people at the tables, and and then on the dance floor, a little bit on the dance floor. I didn't do too much there. I should have, if I didn't have a pounding headache, what I should have done for the dance floor is go around to the other side, because the angle I was at, everybody was facing the other way. And I just assumed that people would be like turning and going in all different directions. So it wouldn't matter where I stand along the dance floor, right? But no, just people had a tendency, and this is because of my inexperience of doing events. I didn't have a feel for how to do photos of a dance floor, because intuitively it seems very simple. Just stand anywhere on the dance floor, people will be moving, and you catch them as they're turning and stuff. That hardly happened at all. Most people were like, if they turned around, it was like for a split second, then they would be facing towards the band, right? They had a live band and a DJ. They were pretty much facing towards the band, and I was in the back. So I was like, so I didn't like all the, I took probably 2 dozen dance floor shots, and I might deliver 2 or 3 out of those 2 dozen, because most of them, I'm just seeing everybody's back. And I missed one of the key moments, because I was so focused on the Christmas tree shots. It, seriously, it was like lasted 1 minute. But they told me they were doing some sort of dance of the, I don't know, there's going to be about 6 or 7 ladies doing some special dance. And they said, make sure you get a couple shots of that. And I said, okay, no problem. And while I was doing pictures of the Christmas tree, they came out and started to dance. I'm like, oh, phew. So I take a couple shots of these people that I was doing, and then I go over. I get a couple of shots of the back. They didn't turn around. They were facing the band. They didn't turn around at all. And within 30 seconds or less than a minute, they were done. I was like, oh, come on, really? Why? I just didn't understand it. I never seen a dance so short in my life. I figured it would go on for at least one song, right? 3 or 4 minutes. But it was like less than a minute. So I missed that. But maybe they won't notice. I don't know. But overall, I ended up taking about 600 shots, and the battery lasted the whole 600, a single OM1 battery, and all my flashes lasted for the whole 600 shots, which is not bad, because I had live view on the whole time, and time to time people would want to see it, so I'd turn the camera around and show it to them. But that was my night last night. and it was a lot of fun, and really, really nice people. The guests were all super nice, and I wish when I was in the kitchen, I should have said, "Can I get a bowl of soup at least?" Because I was hungry and I had a pounding headache, and all. But I was very modest, and I just said, I'll just take a bottled water if you have it, you know. And you think I was asking for a bar of gold or something because they were just uh, they were like scrambling to find even a bottled water. It's weird. I thought that would be the easiest thing, but they were serving top shelf at this event. So it was a lot. It was it was a really nice event though. I just because the last event I did at the Christmas party I did was, man, it was open. It was like a buffet, right? And I took 30 minutes, stopped and ate like a king because oh my god, it was so good. They had sushi and oh, that was a buffet. Let me tell you, open bar. Like I could go up to the bar and just I had a champagne during the event, but that was it. I had one champagne, but the one last night, it was like um, it felt really weird because everybody was served at their tables this 3 or 4 course meal, and I'm walking around taking pictures, and if it was a buffet, I would have probably snuck like a bite or something in, but I just couldn't. So I was starving with a pounding headache and probably dehydrated, but I got it done. Anyhow, let me check the chat window. I see Wayne. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You're a good man. I hope you have a happy holiday too. Thank you so much for the super chat. That was very generous, and every little bit helps. So let's see. Ishant is here, and Darko. Good morning. Eric, friend of mine already got the Rolly AF. I watched what's his name, Chris and Jordan's. This was like one of their worst cameras. The Chris and Jordan annual thing they do. So don't be so jealous. I wouldn't worry about it. It's a neat looking camera, but apparently it's not very good. And Darko says the world of camera tech is becoming so good, even entry level offerings from manufacturers of cams. I assume there's more. But yeah, I mean, I could have easily shot the event with an EM10 Mark II because I wasn't using any. Well, the face detect would have been handy. The face detect on the OM1 is really good, but an EM1 Mark III, the face detect I think is equally as good. EM1 Mark II and EM5 Mark III, not quite as good as the EM1 Mark III and the OM1. And Darko says, Rob, do you feel for, let's say, 75% of enthusiasts, we only need a good lens and good fast AF? For most of the shooting enthusiasts do, not so much all the software / firmware options. That's very, very subjective kind of question, right? Enthusiast, I think, for me, when I think of an enthusiast photographer, is into the photography itself, the craft, the art of, but also into the gear, right? Uh, so that's where I fit in. I love the gear. I love all the tech, the options, right? The what do they call it? Computational stuff. So I would say uh, I don't think I think people I don't think 75% of enthusiasts would be happy with just the photography part, the art, the craft. They also enjoy the gear a lot. So one lens and one good camera ain't gonna cut it. Now, if you're only about the photography and the craft, then yeah, if you're an enthusiast on one side of that, right? You're a photography enthusiast and you just love taking pictures, it doesn't matter what the gear is. And you'll be fine with a good lens with a camera that has decent AF or your cell phone, right? So, but to me, when I think of enthusiasts, I think of people like myself that enjoy the craft and the gear as well. So my answer would be probably not. Probably not with that definition. I think it's, you know, you can take a good photo with anything. Cell phone, bridge camera, compact camera, whatever, right? We all know that. You can take a good picture. If you know your craft really well and you have a good eye for composition and subject and storytelling and all of that, doesn't matter what the camera is. If you enjoy that part of it, but I enjoy kind of both, right? So as an enthusiast that enjoys both gear and photography, I think the answer to that question would be no. I think, you know, enthusiasts in general would not be satisfied with just the lens with a camera with good AF. They need more. They want to try the computational features. They want to do live time, live comp, live ND, high res shot mode. Even though, you know, I could take an S1R, a Sony A7R5, get a single shot at 60 megapixels, and it's probably better than the high res shot mode in the OM1. It's not probably better, it is better to get a single shot high res than computationally doing it. Um, but I enjoy the high res shot mode more than a single shot from my Sony because of, I just enjoy the gear and the process and the technology and appreciate what they're doing with the little bit that they can work with 20 megapixels. So that part of it, I get as much joy and satisfaction out of pushing the gear to its limits as I do the photography and the art of photography itself. Uh, Firmware options being all the abilities to set up cameras for certain shooting styles. Firmware options being all the abilities to set up the cameras for certain. What I think what you're asking here is, try to customize the camera through firmware for a certain type of photographer. And I can see the interest there in that, let's say I'm a landscape photographer. What do I care about bird detect, right? So let's eliminate that from the menu. I don't care about video probably. Let's eliminate all the video options from the camera through firmware. Even though the camera's capable, right? I'm talking about the OM1. And let's add in like let's all the room or bandwidth that we're saving by not adding these features we don't need in the camera. Let's beef up the landscape type options. Like let's try and get a better high res shot model, right? Let's try to get an extra stop or two on the live ND. Let's try to do a little more processing in camera. Uh, Whatever, increase the bandwidth and move it towards the landscape type photographer through firmware. Uh, but I think that would cause a lot of confusion, and I just wouldn't do it. I think it's better to just pack the camera with everything, and then customize it yourself via the custom modes, right? C1, C2, C3, which is what I do. So I have different custom modes for birds in flight, different custom modes for my architectural, different custom modes for the event I did last night. All of these are very different, and most of these are just exposure settings. Really not a lot to do with the computational stuff, except for the bird stuff, which is, um, bird detect, right? It's primarily the one AF feature that I would use that I wouldn't use in the other two. But the other two are very different. Like the event photography, I'm trying to mix ambient light with flash. For architectural photography, I'm trying to separate ambient light and flash, and then I blend them together in post processing. And then for birds in flight, obviously, extremely fast shutter speed with bird detect. And I'd rather have a camera that has all these features all the time. So I have basically a Swiss Army knife of a camera, rather than updating the firmware and then having to change the firmware again. That could be problematic, updating firmware all the time. Uh, every time you want to customize your camera for a certain type of genre. So I think it's better to just have the custom mode. Because there are very dedicated photographers. Like I would imagine Thomas Heaton would care less about bird detect. So if we could eliminate that feature out of the camera, but beef up some other feature that's more landscape orientated, he would set that firmware and he'd be done, right? But enthusiasts, we like all kinds of things. We like photography, the craft, we like the gear, and we like all different kinds of genres. Uh, so yeah, yeah, I think that's another thing. I think those are a couple of things that you and I are a little bit. I don't know if I wouldn't say we disagree, because when you ask a question like that, it kind of implies you believe that. But I'm not saying you do or don't. I'm just saying that maybe the answer I gave is not what you expected, right? And then also, what is your best advice in developing a style photography that is your own? Whew, wow, that takes some time. I mean, the most useful advice I've ever seen or heard was go through Pinterest or images, either your own or online, because maybe you don't have your own set that you don't like any of them, but find 100 or so images, then eliminate 80% of those, so you get down to about 20 images, and then look at those 20 images and analyze each one, what you like about each one, and then try to mix uh, the elements of those 20 into something more unique. And then if those elements come together for you and you like what you've done, that would be your style. So for me, uh, I really enjoyed looking at Yusuf Karsh, right, for portraits. I just love the lighting that he does. So I did a lot of, uh, I studied a lot of his work, looking at his photos, looking at videos online where people are trying to duplicate his style. And I really like the work that he did there. And I was able to on some occasions, get very close to what he did in some of the portraits, right? Close enough to the point that I knew if I continued down this path, I could exactly duplicate the work that he was doing, more or less, right? But I stopped there and I say, okay, so if I continue down this path, all I'm doing is copying Yusuf Karsh. But let me stop here and assess what is it that I like about his work, and what is it about some of the work that I've done that I like, or some of the work from another photographer that I like. Is there any elements from that I can use together with this, right? And I would say, I really like and I'm not there yet. It's a lifelong journey, right? Finding your own style, maybe, for at least for me, the little bit of life I have left. um, I would say I found that, and I'm trying to think of their name. Lindsay Adler. I really like some of the she has very bold, but at the same time subtle colors, and really she has really fantastic. She's a fantastic teacher as well. But she has a lot of interesting ideas on lighting. So I was thinking about trying to combine some of the lighting and color techniques together with what I see from use of cars and see if that's possible. So I experimented with that a little bit, and it was okay, but I'm getting there. But now for general photography, my style, if you look at my Instagram, it's pretty obvious now. I like to fill the frame with the subject, right? I like to make sure my corners are straight, that my I don't have any perspective distortions. That's from my architectural side. And I like to uh, watch my corners and leading lines and try to minimize the number of elements, right? So if we just do a quick if you just do a quick eyeball, this is a picture from the event last night. So there I am with the OM1, and I use this the Godot's Grant D Master Deluxe. I forget what it's called. Anyway, this vintage modern flash. I love this flash for events. People love it too. I got so many comments every time I take this flash out to an event. I get so many uh, interesting comments. Excuse me. And then anyhow, so like here, this is your basic symmetry. Fill the frame with the windows. So pretty straightforward. This is very typical of my architectural style. Is I like to get the door. The door is like the most important thing to me, right? And then this person up here is kind of interesting. I thought just added a little bit of an accent. And then I like how the television down here is like in a normal white balance color, because I think I fixed my white balance. I don't think it says here in the EXIF data. But yeah, if you go down, you'll notice I like to fill the frame with the subject, right? And I like to watch my corners and where the lines are. And that's kind of my style, basically. So hopefully, you get a sense of what my style is. The wildlife is always fill the frame, right? Um, here's another architectural one where I'm always watching my corners, where the lines are coming in, what the subject is, uh, and how this line kind of frames the subject. So generally speaking, hopefully you get a sense of my style here when you look at my images. Um, but maybe not. maybe you're not. But that's what I did. Is I studied a few people that I really like, and I was referring to portraits. For the architecture, that's something I kind of developed over time, which was a combination of what do clients want in their photos. And I always found the front door to be really the entrance into the rest of the images that the client would get, right? Uh, Together with my wildlife photography, where I'm always filling the frame with the subject, mostly a bird. So I tried to, so that there's sort of a combination there of two things, right? Filling the frame with the subject, and then also making sure the lines are straight, all of that. So that's kind of where my style is right now. And that's how I kind of came to it, was combining different genres. But, you know, I guess that it's a tough subject for me to talk about because I'm still struggling with my own style and finding my own style. But hopefully that gives you some direction. Is basically study the masters of photography. Find Find an artist that you really admire their work, and then figure out what it is you like about them, and not just one, but several, right? Find several, and then start mishmashing their images together and seeing where that takes you. And then what kind of story or emotion or uh, vibe are you trying to share in this image? And hopefully that'll turn into your style. Okay, Serge, Darko, let's see. Wayne, Zach, I'm sorry. David Tellett is here. Thank you for the AV check. And Steve is here. Good to see you. Lamb, happy holidays to you. And where are your drone photos? Yeah, drone photos ain't happening. Drone photos are just non-starter here where I live because of all the airports around me. And David, good to see you, David. Hope you're doing better and feeling well. And Jeff Painter, good to see you. And Paul, good morning. And you said you really like my discussion on the K&F bags. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm a there's we were talking about backpacks and shoulder bags. I was talking about this one, yesterday as well. But there's things that a lot of reviews, like this one backpack that I really like. Uh, all the reviews online are like, this is the best backpack ever. This and everyone and people that I respect really like this backpack. And I looked at it closely and I saw a few things just from the online images that I did not like, but I said, these are not deal breakers. These are just things I'll have to work around a little bit, right? I can live with for all of the other things that this backpack offers me. So I'm very detail orientated, right? I spend more time trying to spend $50 than I do buying a car, for example. It's like, I could go buy a car like this with very little research, but a bag, I'll spend weeks, months, I don't know, like a long time before I drop $50. Unless it's on sale, then I'll just buy it. But yeah, so I pointed out some things about the bag that no other reviewer really talks about. And I try to give you a very realistic expectation of when you spend $50 on a backpack, your expectations need to be kind of down here, not up here like all these reviews are giving you. They're telling you this is the best backpack ever. And I'm like, it's the best backpack for $50, but it ain't the best backpack ever. You know what I mean? But I'll do a shopping stream again on Tuesday. I'm gonna try and focus on lighting, like flashes and gear a little bit for that one. But I focused on K&F, which is cameras, bags, and filters. I'm sorry, bags and filters, right? Backpack, shoulder bags, filters. That's kind of their thing, adapters. But for Amazon, I usually do Amazon stuff on Tuesdays. And I have a link down below to my Amazon deals and my Amazon page, and I have gift ideas for photographers on there that I put a lot of thought into. But anyhow, so if you do your holiday shopping and you want to support the work that I'm doing here, definitely use my links, my affiliate links. They're greatly appreciated. Anyhow, so yeah, join me on Tuesdays. And this coming Friday, I do my editing streams, but I don't know. I think it's my sister's birthday, so I might have to reschedule that one. Yeah, should have sat down, chow down on some steak and a glass. I know. I was hungry too, man. I just, like I said, I didn't assume I was going to be able to eat, but I was kind of expecting it, and it turned out not to be not to be the case. And the lens are like potato chips. You can't stop at one. That's right. I think I used that for one of my thumbnails, my shopping thumbnails. Good morning, Adrian. Good to see you, and totally agree with you on custom settings. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think so. I think custom settings are the way to go. That's why it was such a bummer when like the OM10 or EM10 Mark 3 and 4 got rid of custom settings. It's like, why? Why? That's like, I mean, I get it, but if you're an enthusiast and you buy an EM10 because, your budget, that's all your budget allows, and then you find out there's no custom settings, that might turn you off to the brand altogether, right? Excuse me. If all these settings can be put in firmware, I would suggest that as the firmware updates aren't huge, say 250 megabytes, it should be possible to have many options either loaded all the time or swappable. Yeah, and I like I said, I think it would be problematic, people updating their firmware more than as necessary. For example, my Fujifilm camera, I haven't updated that firmware. I'm still on firmware like 1.5 or something, whatever it came with. And my OM1, I'm still on 1.6. I haven't updated to the latest. I will eventually, but I just haven't done it yet. But anyway, you hear about people bricking their cameras, and I just think it'd be problematic if you had to do settings via. I mean, the camera manufacturers, the lower end cameras. I remember Nikon used to have all these different mode dials, right? Landscape, sports, portrait, and the M10 had that as well. The newer models had a whole menu dedicated to that, like shooting styles or something. I forget what they called it. So it already kind of exists, but I think what Darko and what you're suggesting is, Andrew, that we can use the bandwidth that we save by not adding these features we're not going to use anyway into the other things, right? At least that's how I would do a firmware update. Is I would be like, I never use video. I never use bird detect. I'm going to use all that memory and bandwidth that those features were using and put it towards the features that I want to be better, or additional features that would be more focused on the type of genre I do. But I think it's better to just have everything. Just give the camera more memory, put everything in there, and then customize it as needed. And Andrew says, I have an old flash unit that was one of those reflectors. Not sure I can get 22-volt batteries for it anymore. Yeah. You don't need to. Just buy the Godox Luxmaster. It's a great flash. And Rick says, I have a question. I have the OM1. I'm looking at the Panasonic 9mm f1.7 or the 7-14 2.8. Which one would you recommend? I'd be using it for night stars, old building, barns, and landscape. I would go the 7-14 2.8. I know you're losing about a stop and a third of light, but you didn't say, well, ultimately it's much more versatile and wider, right, than the 9mm. So I would trade a stop and a third light for the versatility of a zoom. I think optically there's no difference. They're both going to be equally sharp and perform flawlessly in that respect. They're pretty flawless, but I would lean towards the versatility of the 7-14, being able to go wider or a little bit tighter, and it'll save you time in post processing because you won't have to crop if you shoot too wide, right? If so a stop and a third will, for night stars, right? For example, uh, a stop and a third can make a difference if that's what you're going to do exclusively. Then I would say go for the faster lens. But honestly, the 7-14 is such a versatile lens for everything that's wide angle that, a lot of times you're going to stop the lens down to f5.6 and use it that way. And you don't necessarily need to be at 2.8 or 1.7 for a lot of things. So I would get the 7-14 for the versatility. And Peter says, hello, I got the small K&F pack, very nice, but hardly ever carry my camera in a bag. If I'm out, my camera's out. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the bag is perfect for events, and I get it though, but I usually like to carry a couple extra lenses because I shoot primarily primes when I go out on my normal photo walks. And if I'm doing events, I'm using zooms, but then I'm also bringing a flash. So the backpack I used it a lot to uh, swap between lenses. I used the star filter last night. Oh, that was awesome. I wanted to use that star filter I got uh, for the. I meant to get my other filter out and I didn't. But I got this swirly bokeh filter that I wanted to put on there. I totally forgot about it last night because of my headache. But I did put the star filter on. So when I was taking pictures of people at the Christmas tree, all the lights on the tree would sparkle. That was freaking awesome. um, and let's see. I can confirm the 150 to 600 is huge. Yeah. It's a big lens. It's definitely a big lens. And it's almost a deal breaker for me. It's such a good deal right now. It's $19.99, and I would love the extra reach and the capability to zoom. But I'm gonna have to hold off. I'm gonna have to get a gimbal and use it on a monopod. I would have a hard time hand holding that for like a half day at Conowingo and doing pictures of eagles, for example. I probably have a hard time unless it was on a gimbal. Uh, so that's going to be my next gear purchase is a gimbal. So I'm looking at one from K&F. I'm debating to buy it outright or just asking them to send it to me so I can do a review on it. But then I feel like I'm not, if I do a review on it, I want it to just be a little bit more casual. I feel like when I'm obligated to review, it feels like work. uh, anyhow, hi, 2:30 and heat woke me up. Wow, so lucky. It's so cold here. Luckily, my office here is up to about 65 degrees. Um, I've had the heater on a couple hours. I don't know why it's not warmer. My house though is really cold. I think it's about 55 right now in my house. But I got to turn the heat on later because I have some guests coming over. That's why I don't like to have people over because I got to spend all this money heating the house. Okay, it looks like I got to all the chat. So let me find a couple of pictures that I can share. If you were to buy a single one, I would get a 6-point star. So I'll show you. I do have one I took. I did a pano. I'm working on another one that's going to be better. Let me move this window here. Okay. So this is a 6-point. This is a 6-point star filter, but I like the 6-point right now. So you get 4 lines and then 1 line across, right? You get basically a perfect X, and you get the one line splitting one of the X's. But this came out pretty good. This was like at ISO 10,000 to 16,000. I just did a handheld. I took 4 shots handheld very quickly because it was freaking cold. It felt like it was like, for those of you that know Celsius, it was definitely below 0 Celsius, but it was, I think it was like in about 26 degrees out Fahrenheit. And the other thing that happened last night is I had to go into the bathroom and take off my vest, take off my shirt, and luckily underneath I had an all black, like I have today, I have an all black long sleeve t-shirt. And I had to strip down to that because it was so warm in there. And I knew it would be warm. That's why I wore a long sleeve black t-shirt underneath, just in case. Because at events, it's usually very well heated there, right, at a venue. And on top of that, you got hundreds of people there. So that's generating all kinds of heat. And then I'm walking around, right? So I'm generating my own heat. So I was sweating a little bit. But I had to go in. I was thinking I could take off my sweater vest and that would be enough, but I had to take off my sweater vest and my shirt. So when I came out, the reason I'm telling you that is because when I came out to take pictures of this, all I had on was my black t-shirt and a very, very light jacket. So I was cold. And anyway, so that's why I didn't take my time. If I had taken my time, I would have got my tripod out and set the shutter speed to. I did take a couple shots at ISO 200. And the shutter speed dropped down to like less than 1 second, I believe. I'll have to look, but the image quality is better. But I didn't get as good an angle when I was shooting at ISO 200. I think this is one of the shots. See what I mean? Everybody's back is to me. I feel like if I was standing maybe back here in this corner or over here, it would have been better. And EXIF data wise, so I'm at 1/60th, f2.8, ISO 1600, 12 to 40 Pro. And you can see it's perfectly fine, ISO 1600. And I use that Godox Luxmaster flash, the one with the big silver dish on it, and I pointed it at the ceiling to spread the light. So I wasn't using direct flash. I bounced it onto the ceiling. And then I had to do white balance corrections to kind of blend the ambient light together with the flash. So I got this nice, very warm shot of the dance floor, and you can clearly see everyone. I think I have another shot here I can share that's very generic. But I wanted to show you one. I think I deleted all the solo Christmas tree ones already. I already did some scrubbing. Well, this one is. What's going on here? So here's a shot of the Christmas tree, and this has the 6-point stars. So just imagine a person standing in front of this tree, and then you have this very sparkly Christmas tree behind them. I'll try and find one picture that I think I can share, because there were people there where their faces. Why is my camera not coming on? How about camera 2, 3, 4? Nope. What happened to my camera? Give me a second here. Uh, that was weird. Okay. So, okay, I'm back. Um, what the heck was I talking about? I guess the points on the Christmas tree. Yeah, there we go. Um, oh, so let me see if I can find. Oh, I know what the problem is. The camera, what I need to do is not deactivate it when it's not showing. Okay. So let me find one of a person in front of the tree that I think will be okay. There were people there that look really familiar, like celebrity kind of familiar, or maybe local, like more like a local type celebrity. Uh, give me a second. I'm gonna find one. Is this sorted by? Let me sort by extension. Well, bear with me. I'm sorry. Maybe this one. This one's okay. Uh, so yeah, I just love. You see how the Christmas tree is sparkling behind them. Even at f2.8, I mean the depth of field is still too shallow. I'd have liked it to be more in focus, but uh, this is a good example where I mixed. I wanted the flash to be just bright enough to illuminate the subject, and then not overpower the Christmas tree. Um, so I think that came out pretty good. Not perfect, but not bad. And I think I have some video of me setting up. I don't know if you guys want to see that at all, but this came out nice, and I think this is the full body shot. So I always do two shots, right? Full body, and then um, should have told her to put her hands behind her back or something. She had no idea. Uh, but this was nice, and then I made some other mistakes. Like, let me hide the faces. I want to show you something, and this is because of my inexperience, right? But I need to blur out the faces real quick. And then I'll show you this one. I have to fix this. I have to do this in a way so I can explain what I'm doing. Uh, can I need to, I guess that's good enough. Okay, this one here, um, this is one of the things I was not expecting is when she's standing in front of her husband here, she made this shadow over here. I think this is and this is edited. I tried to fix this so it's not so obvious. Let me sorry. I want you guys to see this. Um so I have to reset this. Oh, no, I can hide this one. Okay, let me go back to it now. What happened here is the guy ended up being much darker on this right side, and this whole left side was too dark compared to her. She was standing a little bit closer, and because I had the flashes so close to the subjects, right, in this case, because I wanted the fall off to be very fast. And that's why the tree is dark, right? So I could see the tree. But then if somebody moves a little bit forward like she did, they get a little bit overexposed relative to their other person. So they're on a different focal plane, which, f2.8 was okay, but they were on a different focal plane, meaning she was standing much closer. And you can see how much brighter the light is on her versus her husband here. And then she's also creating this shadow on his face. And, because of the way I had arranged the lights. So this is something that at my next event, because this has never happened uh, at the other events that I've done where people were standing kind of like this. And because if I was using a single on-camera flash, this would have been okay. But because I was using two lights, you know, uh, I'm not articulating this well. But the picture kind of explains. So what I did was is I added a control line to the left side to brighten the image, and then I pushed the shadows a little bit to bring him up so that he's about the same luminance. But yeah, this was a problem for me, um, that I hadn't encountered before. Because like I said, I only do 2-3 events a year. I don't do many, and I'm really not a portrait photographer. But uh, I have a good feel for lighting and all of that. I was like, how hard can it be? Psh, just go and take a picture, right? But it's pretty challenging, because every time I do an event, I find something new that I hadn't encountered before, and I'm like, damn it, whether it's I miss or I run into a situation like this where the lighting is not what I didn't plan for myself, so I can't replicate this kind of scenario at my house when I'm practicing the lighting setup. Because I was practicing, I'll show you, it's kind of funny. I was practicing this. I was practicing here. Uh, I just put some string lights up, and then I was practicing different uh, apertures and shutter speeds and lighting setups to see, what my settings needed to be. So it's kind of funny in that sense. Uh, but yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So fortunately, I was able to correct for it in post processing for the most part. But what does that do? That adds to my overhead in processing these photos. Now, fortunately, there was only, this is like one of the very few. There might be one or two others like this that, where I have this problem. But most of the time, I made people stand on the same focal plane. I did that intentionally because of the depth of field, right? Because I noticed that even at f2.8, if people are too far off that focal plane, it can, someone's going to be blurry, which I don't want. And I didn't want to, the other thing that's nice about practicing is, if I needed a deeper depth of field, and I did time to time, I would set the aperture to say f4, but then all I had to do is crank the ISO up to 800, and I didn't have to touch my flash settings, because aperture and ISO affect the flash settings. So you get a feel for these things after a while. So that's what I mean when I do an event. I'm like, how hard can it be? But then something like this happens, or missing that when somebody says they're going to do this dance, I'm not going to make the assumption anymore. It's going to be at least for 3 minutes, like the average song length. It could be like less than a minute, because literally all they did was walk out, go left and right, and then that was it. 1 minute. I'm like, oh my God. Anyhow, I'm sure many of you have done weddings or events like this, are laughing at me, right? Says, yeah, Rob, you're an idiot. But, live and learn, right? It's always a lot of fun. Okay. Let me go back to the chat window here. You got it right. Yusuf Karsh. I think that's right. And sorry, let me go back up to oh, there was a second part of this from Andrew about putting it on a memory card. Yeah, I've seen people, there's some cameras where you can do the firmware via the SD card. But still, it can be problematic if you brick your firmware, versus if you mess up your custom settings, you just have to reset the camera. But sometimes, if you brick your camera with a firmware, that could be, like I said, problematic. So I have an old flash. Oh, yeah, I got that one. And Klaus, should I send it? Yeah, send one to me. I'd love one. If you're not using it, yeah, send one over. You can always, and everyone knows my email address, right? rob@robtrek.com. It's pretty straightforward. If you guys want to email me and just for anything, just talk, have a question, share a photo, that's fine. Send me gear. But if you send me an email, I can. Oh my goodness, Jeanette is here. Hi, Jeanette. How are you? It's been a while since I've seen you in a stream, but good to see you back. Happy holidays. And let's see. Roberto's in here. I'm so happy. Yeah, Roberto, I'm so happy Jerry's doing well. She looks great in your last video. That warms my heart. What a great Christmas you're gonna have with Jerry, right? Every time I'm gonna cry, but every time I watch your videos, it makes me really happy I have Ellie. Anyhow, yeah, I don't want to get all emotional, but yeah, I love my dog, and I love your dog and your story with Jerry. If you guys don't know, Roberto has his own YouTube channel under the same name, Roberto De Niro. You should definitely check him out. He's very, very down to earth, very very real. Pretty much like I do these live streams, but he does them in 10-minute clips or 20 minutes. And Oh, and I appreciate the shout outs, that you throw out there occasionally. And I'm glad that Wolverine film scanner is working out for you. Because you had asked me which one to get, and I recommended that one. So I'm glad that's working out for you. And um, also for the tripod, hopefully that's working out for you. Use that tripod all the time myself. It's a K&F. Okay. Let's see. And then Andrew says it looks like a refraction starburst. Could be. It's one of those. It's a filter. It just has these lines cut into it, right? Still on my camera from last night. I don't know if I can angle it the right way so you can see the. Almost got it. No, it's hard to see. But what's amazing is, I think if I pixel peep to very distant objects, you can see a little bit of degradation in the image quality, but I didn't worry about it because I'm going to be shooting pretty much filling the frame with the subject, so I'm not worried about the image quality being affected. It didn't affect the image quality at that range, not enough that anybody would notice. Yeah, it's a great filter. It's a great filter. I love it. I thought it would be the perfect filter to use with a Christmas tree when I did those last night. Okay. Let's see. There are still folks who don't believe the 150 to 600 could have been made smaller. I'm one of those people. It could have been made slightly smaller, but not enough that OM System was going to invest in the design of a totally new lens. Uh, it just can't be done because the focal length versus the aperture, you get a certain diameter, so the lens has to be a minimum size, like in diameter. And the fact that it's a zoom, right? The barrel has to go inside and outside of the casing of the lens. So the casing has to be even bigger than the lens opening in the front. You know what I mean? So you got the zoom action going in and out. I don't know if I can, like this 12 to 40 Pro, the diameter of this lens has to be this diameter to have an f2.8. And the fact that it zooms in and out, the entire barrel has to be able to accommodate this lens, right? This diameter. So you got a 150 to 600. It's the same principle. The entire barrel has to accommodate the diameter of the front entrance element to get that aperture and to get that aperture for that focal length. So in terms of length and diameter, or in terms of diameter of the entire lens, there's no way around it. F6.3, 600 millimeters, that's the diameter. And then it has to be a little more than that, right? So what about the length? The length is the overall length is not dictated quite as much as it used to be by focal length, but it is to some degree, right? For the most part, it is, but not as much as it used to be because they can do certain things with the rear element to make the overall length shorter to achieve the same focal length, right? 600 millimeters. To take that to an extreme, like the Nikon 300 millimeter PF lens uses Fresnel type lenses inside to make the lens really compact and lightweight. That's sort of an extreme example. There's a perfectly fine, very, very sharp lens, but the trade-off for that is the bokeh can be problematic depending on the background. So if you have a very busy background, the Fresnel lens is going to give you sort of that weird look here to a lens that has, assuming it's designed well, right? But you have a lens with like 14 or 15 lenses in it, is optically going to be superior to anything you can do with a 4-element lens, because you have to do so many corrections to the light, and every element does a certain amount of correction, right, to the fraction. So that's when they start talking about high refractive lenses, low refracted like ED elements, and to some extent, spherical lenses has reduced the number of lenses required, because now one lens can do the performance of 2 or 3 lenses, right, in terms of doing corrections. But the optical quality of a lens, there's an inverse relationship to the optical quality of a lens versus the size. So the higher the optical quality, the more elements you're going to need, and the more the bigger the lens is going to be. And that 150 to 600 is a very, very sharp lens. Yeah, it's not 150 to 400 quality, but it's really, really sharp. I was very impressed by it. And so it's hard to say that they could have designed this smaller. The only thing they could have changed for Micro Four Thirds, right, is towards the rear of the barrel. They can make that smaller, right, because the total light flux or throughput that a Micro Four Thirds sensor needs is, 1/4 of what a full frame sensor needs. Okay, so they could have made that a little smaller at the back end, but that would have mean redesigning everything in front of those smaller elements. And that's a lot of overhead when you can get something off the shelf that is probably only about 5 or 10%, not even 10% heavier than if they had designed one from scratch. So that's where I'm coming from with the 150 to 600. That's how I'm justifying my opinion that they really couldn't make that lens any smaller, given what it is. 600 millimeter, I think it's f6.3, right? They just can't do it. Not in any practical way. You'd have to switch over to a totally different lens technology, like the Nikon Fresnel lens, 300 millimeter PF. And then that would be like a $5,000 lens or more. So that's why they have the 150 to 400. There's a lens that, yeah, that lens is nice. That lens is nice. So I'm one of those. I'm one of the guys that you really can't make it smaller, not without compromising the optical quality or the overall aperture at f6.3 and 600 millimeters. You'd have to, something's got to give with current net lens technology, because really all we have, the most advanced lens we have is the spherical glass, right? That's as far as our lens technology has gone. We've had ED glass and high refractive lenses. They're basically the same thing, just one bends light more than the other. Since they started making lenses. And then somewhere in the 50s, they came up with the aspherical lens. I think it was Leica even. But somebody came up with the aspherical lens that was able to combine the optical corrections of multiple lenses into one lens. Okay, anyway, we're getting a little bit beyond my competency level here, if we haven't already, about lenses. Because I'm going to start talking out my butt, and then somebody's going to call me out. And anyone have any suggestion on a good film camera restorer? My Christmas gift to myself this year is sending my dad's old Pentax K1000 to get restored as new. Oh, I don't know anybody. But that would be a cool really cool gift. A little too late for Christmas, though. Usually there's like because there's only a few of those guys around, usually they have a pretty long turnaround time. You just need to blur out the background behind the tree and post. Yep. So I did do another image. Let me just blur out the face there. And so this is this is one image, right? So you can see like the doorways here, but I didn't have much choice, and I could crop in, but then I might crop off some of the dress. So what I did was I went to Photoshop and I did this. I just did I did what, generative fill, and I filled in the doorways with just whatever the AI thought would look good there. So if I create this as a reference, so that's kind of the side by side, right? With and without the doorways. To try one or two shots and see if I can do it quickly. If I can do it quickly, if I get a workflow where it's just a click and then go to the next one, click, then I'll do it. But if it's taking me too long, I'm not going to do it, because just like I said, it kind of, when you start adding overhead to your processing, then that reduces the how much you really earn from the thing. So I'm trying to make it so that I am only 4 hours all in, right, of this project for what I got paid. If it goes to 5 hours because I want it to be extra good, maybe, but I'm counting, driving time, time on site to set up and all that, and then processing time. I want to keep that within 5 hours. So I should have charged more, though. I should have charged more. But I charged $500 for 2 hours, and so I was estimating 2 hours on site, 1 hour driving. I didn't want it to be 1 hour, but it ended up being an hour round trip. So that's 3 hours, and then I figured maybe another hour to 2 hours at most, so 5 hours total. So I'd be getting $100 an hour from them. This is the first paid event I've done with them. So I gave them a little bit of a deal. And right after I sent them a quote, I thought about it. I was like, man, I didn't charge enough. But that's how you do it, right? Is you get, because people are, another thing I got to do is get business cards, because people are asking me for business cards all night. I don't have any, you know. But anyhow, I told them to just contact the event coordinator or co-chair, because they have my contact information. And when I deliver the images, I'll have my contact information there as well. But I should have charged more. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Was that enough? Did I charge enough or not enough? For what? Because what you saw, those couple images you saw, is about my level of expertise or competency for event photography. I mean, it's not like the old days when we were shooting film and we had ISO 25, positive film in there, and you needed to use a flash to get anything to expose, right? We're talking about digital cameras. You can shoot at ISO 10,000 and still get a decent street shot. There's just no need for flash in the street. And X-Meta's here. It's like wedding shots with bright bride and dark guy next to her, challenging for exposure sometimes to keep both inside dynamic range, including background. Yeah, like I said, you probably have a lot more experience than I do. with those small lights, the M5 III sometimes struggle with EF. Yeah, the M5 III is not great. It's not great. It's not, I mean, I'm talking about face detect. It's not as good as the OM1, in my opinion. OM1 is really, really good. But anyhow, it says, with those small lights, the M5 III sometimes struggle with AF, small bulbs, Christmas decorations in city, and also chrome shiny objects, especially the 12 to 104. I could see that. The OM1 really wasn't struggling, but I wasn't trying to focus on lights. I was focusing on people. And in that sense, it did a great job. Stream is dropping out. Oh, sorry about that. Klaus says, I'm starting out as a worldwide distributor for Pro, Bexon, and Jinba in 2025 and fulfilling my stock. The gimbal is in stock. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll be happy to try it, Klaus. That's cool. And Seraphin says, I bricked my 100V and they had back to me in 3 weeks fixed. Oh, doing a firmware update, I assume, right? Oh, thank you, Robin, for getting the correct spelling. That looks correct. Yusuf Karsh is amazing. And thank you, Rob. Jerry's doing great. Merry Christmas. That's great news. Always, God, I just choke up every time I think about you and Jerry. Audio every second, couple of second cuts off, but other YouTube runs correctly. I don't know what's causing that. So that was at 11 a.m. It's 11:07. So we're 17 minutes later than that. Let me know if it's still doing it now. Maybe I just need to change microphones. Let me do that. Got my trusty GVM. I can do a quick mic swap. Because I know the batteries are a little bit low on this Rode mic. Hopefully we have sound now. Hopefully that's better. I don't know. And then if I bring this up closer. There we go. Keep nice and warm. It's gone up 1 more degree since I started the stream in this office. Okay. I got the magnify glass macro too. Lots of great. Oh, cool. TT Artisans. And they said to go ahead and publish the review, whether I liked it or not, which I applaud them for. So I still may do it, but it's been months now. But one of their lenses is not great, and they're charging kind of too much for it. If it was priced at around $100, I'd be like, okay, I'll review this. But I think it's like a $300 lens, and I'm like, I don't know, for $300, it's kind of a lot for what it is. And then there was another thing I got in, and another thing I got in. I emailed them back, and I showed them a video of my problem with it. And I said, this thing is not working. It's either broken or it's crap or whatever, you know. But everything else, if I end up reviewing it, it's pretty decent product. Anyhow, but a lot of stuff I do in my shopping streams, it's stuff that I bought for myself. And the 7200 f4 VR Nikon is internal focus, but the diameter is very small but this lens for me is very sharp and very fast AF. And I suspect the AF is probably due to the X-Speed 7 and the Z750. Uh, that 70 to 200 f4 VR is a pro lens. I mean, that has the very fast, I don't know what Nikon called it, but the very fast, like, linear voice coil type motor. And of course, the VR is really bad. I used to have that lens. I kind of regret getting rid of it, but uh, that lens is amazing. It's one of the sharpest lenses I ever owned, and the autofocus, even on my D750, was really fast. I got some great, great images from it. I said, I wouldn't expect a company that is struggling to design and build a limited use lens with an off the shelf substitute is available, but making the price smaller like others would be nice. I know, right, Rob? So the price is now down to at least bearable, right? Because on sale, you can buy the sister of that lens in another mount for like $1,000, right? Still like half. But all things being equal, the current price is about right for that lens. And Staples has a business card computer thing set up thing. Yeah, I know. Uh, so I don't think it was the mic; it was YouTube stuttering. But XMeta said it's better now. So yeah, it could be the mic, could be YouTube. But hey, Marco, how you doing? Good to see you. Let's see, Klaus. Yep, I have it too. Seems to be a YouTube problem. Oh, okay. And Zoltan. Oh my goodness, Zoltan, how are you? Where's all my emojis at? Zoltan always sends me like tons of emojis, like these little icons. Just got the Nikon Z kit. Oh, which Z did you get? Did you get a Z50 or a Z63 or? Walter sold his Z7 or traded in and got the Z8. He already has a Z9. Friend of mine, Walter. You may have seen him in the stream time to time. I wish I'd known he was thinking about trading. I would have probably bought it from him. Maybe gave him an extra 100 or $200 than he got in trade. But he got a really good trade in on that. They gave him, I think, $700 for trade for not the Mark II, the Z1 Mark One. The Z1 Mark One selling for $1,000. So the fact that he got 700 for it, that's pretty good for trade. So I would have gave him 700. I don't think I would have gave him 8 or 9, because at that point we're looking at. I still want an S1R. I don't know if I can get back into the Nikon system. I'd like to. I'd like to get a Nikon, but I'm just not compelled by any of their cameras except for the Z8. The Z8 is a very compelling camera, but it's so expensive. If I could buy the Z8 and still be able to afford whatever OM system comes out with, I'd probably do it. But I can't do both. I got to pick one. So I'm going to pick OM systems every time, right? It's my format of choice. But if I had the bucks, I would definitely get a Z8 right now with their 51.8 and their 35.18. Those are really nice lenses, and they have some little compact primes. I don't like the 40 f2 or 2.8, whatever it is. Their Pancake 40. I know a lot of people like that lens. I didn't like that lens when I tried it. It's a great focal length, but it just didn't wow me. I don't know why people like that lens so much, but it just felt very. I guess I'd have to try it again. But when I was trying it out at the store, yeah, like that's not really trying a lens out, right? But I was taking pictures with other lenses there as well. Like I tried their 135 Plena, not impressed. I tried their 40. I think those are the only two lenses I tried with the Nikon Z mount. I mean, but when I was comparing the 135 with the 40 millimeter, It was like night and day difference. And I'm not talking about the focal length. I'm talking about the image quality. It was night and day. So maybe that was part of the problem. I was comparing it right next to a Plena, but I didn't. Even before I tried the Plena, I was like, this is not, because this is when Nikon ZF launched, the ZF with the 40 millimeter, and it just, you know how first impressions go, right? It's hard to shake them. So that's why I've never been a super fan of the ZF. And with respect to it, just doesn't entice me to buy it because I can get one now pretty cheap. And in fact, I know Robert. There's another Robert that comes in the stream sometimes. He's willing to trade his ZF plus give me a few dollars to buy my Sony A7R5, which I didn't dismiss. I was thinking, huh, maybe, maybe I can get rid of that A7R5 finally and get me a ZF, which I like the ZF better than my Sony A7R5 right now. But I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I like the ZF enough that I would trade because I'd have to the investment, the little bit I have invested in the lenses, I've only bought a couple lenses for it. But the 55 millimeter Zeiss, nice, really nice with that A7R5. Such a nice lens. And Viltrox and Seven Artisans have sent me lenses for the A7R5 as well. And I'm supposed to be getting another one here soon. Whatever that is, I can't remember. So I got some nice lenses for the Sony A7R5. I'd have to give all that up and reinvest in Nikon Z lenses. And yeah, over time I can build it up again, either through product reviews or just buying them outright. But I'm already there with the Sony. So, but I'm still thinking about it. If you're watching, Robert, I'm still thinking about it. You can give me your ZF plus a few bucks, and I can sell you my A7R5 and a few lenses. Give you a couple lenses to start off with that are really good. I think one is a Viltrox. One is a Seven Artisans. 85-18, I think, is really good. Anyway, I know, Blaine, the 7-1R has suddenly gone up on the used market. People seem on what it can do. I'm so pissed because I could have bought one for $1,000, like with only like 2,000 clicks on it, just like 6 months ago. I should have bought it then. I should have bought it. Now it's like $2,000, for something similar, like a mint condition. I can get a semi-used one for about 16 or 1700. That's like got like a reasonable amount of clicks, like 10,000 or something, 10 or 20,000. But man, oh God, I'm so pissed. But the 7-1R Mark II might come out. That's the rumor, right? So we'll see. We'll have to see how much that goes for. And then if that puts any pressure on the 7-1 S1R Mark I, if that puts some pressure back on that, the prices can go back down. Then maybe I can go back into this S1R. But I ain't paying. I might pay 12 or 1300 for an S1R, but I ain't paying more than that because now we're talking Z7 Mark II territory. Z7 Mark II, smaller, same megapixels, better autofocus, better video, I think, too, actually. And every bit as good a quality camera. They also have quality lenses, but I think the lens system with the L mount is right up there with the OM system glass and Panasonic glass. L mount is basically Panasonic anyway, but Micro Four Third lenses, for the most part, are so good across the board, from the kit lenses up to their pro stuff. They're so good at every price point that The L mount, the Leica L mount is the only other camera system I've tried that has such good optical glass at the price point. It's so good. You can get for the 50 millimeter f1.8 Leica L mount, the 35 1.8, the 85 1.8. That triplet right there, and each lens is between $300 and $500, right? On sale. That is, I mean, that is such an awesome lens set, and that's what's driving me to the L mount system is the lenses. And why I want it so bad, because I would love to get back into the L mount system with the L mount glass that's available. That triplet right there, the 35, the 50, and the 85. That's an amazing system. And then if I could get an S1R for $1,000, then I'd be set. I would have one of the finest crafted, highest quality camera systems ever made for a fraction of what you could get with other systems to give you the same kind of quality. Because I tell you, I think you would have to get like a Sony A7R5 with their G Master glass. So we're talking, $7,000-8,000. Even on the used market, you'd probably be close to like 5,000 or 6,000. You get the same kind of quality I think you can get from an S1R with your standard L mount 1.8 lenses. Just my opinion. I was just so impressed with the L mount and the Nikon primes. They're normal ones, the 1.8s, the 1.4s, the f2s, a couple of the f4s. Fabulously sharp, optically really good lenses. But expensive as all get out. If you want to get into the Z-mount system and get decent, not as expensive as G-Master, okay, but just as good in my opinion. And the camera rendering and image quality from a Nikon system is excellent. But it's expensive. So that's why I love Micro Four Thirds, because it just outperforms what you get for the money. I mean, I get it. The OM1 was not a cheap camera when it was released. The OM1 Mark II, even at $1,800, it's not a cheap camera relative to what's on the market, because you can get a lot of cameras in the $2,000 price point. But it's when you start buying the lenses and you want a good lens to put onto that camera, that's when Micro Four Thirds, in my opinion, really starts to shine, especially on the used market. I mean, the 35 to 100 f2.8 from Panasonic, that I used that for the event last night. Not as much as I thought I would need to, because I was able to get up pretty close most of the time. If I was doing stage work, the 35 to 100, like stage stuff, yeah. But there wasn't really any stage stuff last night. So I pulled it out a couple of times to get people from a distance sitting at the tables, but then somebody's head would be in the way. So I had to get up close and say, everybody, let's take a picture. Because if I didn't do that, people are always getting in the way. But yeah, the 35 to 100 is so good. It's so good. The 12 to 40 Pro, you can buy those used for 500, brand new for 700. So good optically. The 12 to 45, the images, because I do the editing live streams, people have been sending me images with the 12 to 45 f4. It's so sharp. It's so good, and the only thing holding them back is really we're capped at 20 megapixels on the OM systems cameras. But these lenses could easily resolve 24 megapixel sensors, I think. I think if we go to 30 or more, it might be a little harder. But certainly, like the Panasonics, like the G9 Mark II, all the lenses will resolve every pixel on that camera for the most part, the good lenses. So, and it's amazing what I get, the image quality I get with the 14 to 42 kit lens. It just, the 12 to 32 kit lens from Panasonic, the image quality that I get from these like $100, $200 lenses just rivals that of anything I've seen on any other system. And that's why I love Micro Four Thirds, because it just punches way above its weight in terms of optical quality and image quality of the camera body, the sensor and all of that, the features that it offers, et cetera, et cetera. And plus I can get them really small, right? I mean, the person that hired me commented on, wow, you didn't bring very much, because my setup was so small, right? Couple of V1s, couple of light stands, all in one with a 12 to 40 Pro and 35 to 100, right? That's all that's in this bag. Look at this, 35 to 100, that's it. This is this, what a 70 to 200 f2.8 is like, you guys know, right? Yeah, it's no joke on a full frame camera. Kodak's V1. This is kind of a big flash. I use the I use the Luxmaster instead. So if I'm going to put a big honking flash on my camera, I'm going to get. I love that Luxmaster. I love that flash. And then I brought this little trigger. This little trigger is fine for personal stuff, but I found it awkward to use in a professional environment. I'm just not good with touch screens. I like buttons. That's just me. Some people seem to be fine with this in the field, but I would use this for like my macro stuff and photo walks. But on a job, I'm gonna use my X Pro trigger, wherever that is. It's probably in the light stand bag. Anywho, I believe the Olympus 40 to 150 2.8 would easily resolve 30 megapixels. I've been using it more lately, and it's so darn. I know the 40 to 150 2.8. I mean, that's every bit as good as that 35 to 100 that I have. It's just a bigger lens, so this is more appropriate for me. That I can just go into an event. This is my lens setup. I'm 12 to 100 altogether. Probably could have got away with just a single lens, right? The 12 to 100 f4, but I really needed the 2.8 for this event because events are pretty low light, so that extra stop keeps me from having to shoot at ISO 3200, 6400. I was shooting. I don't think I have any shots over ISO 1600 from the event last night. But yeah, I mean, this is it. So this is what, a full frame equivalent of 24 to 200. And, I got away with one battery. One battery. It was dead at the end, but I got away with one. One battery for a couple hours of shooting and continuous shooting, right? My ZF has become like your Pen F. I'll be ordering a second one as soon just to keep one box. Wow. You love that ZF. See, you got me thinking about it again. I'll have to call up Robert and see if he still wants to sell it. And the Z5 II should be out soon. That'll be an interesting camera. The regular Z5 is really nice. It's pretty small and it's cheap. You can get those for like $700 or less now in the used market. And brand new, I remember they were going for 1,000. Like they might still be at that price right now. I don't know, but $1,000 for a full frame Nikon, that's unbelievable. And it's such a good little camera. It does have a couple limitations, but let's see. Let me scroll up. I know I jumped ahead on the chat, but that's I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. So the drops are back. Okay. Probably the connection. wonder if it's clipping. Let me check my testing 1, 2. Maybe it's clipping. Let me turn off one of these filters. Oh, I don't have a filter on. I thought maybe I had a noise gate or a limiter on. Sometimes a limiter can make it sound kind of clipped. But if it's totally going mute, that's bad. Okay. Oh, so you got a ZFC and a Z30. Oh, so really small little set. I saw a beautiful, I think it was a leather case for the ZFC, and it was on sale. I might have it on my shopping page. I'm not sure. But I was thinking, because that ZFC is so plasticky. Well, it's very lightweight. It just doesn't have, it looks heavier than it is. Let me put it that way. That camera looks like it has some heft to it. Then when you pick it up, you're like, ooh, this is not that heavy after all. But I think putting a leather case on it, like a half case, because the half cases usually have a nice aluminum plate on the bottom to give it some more rigidity. So I think that would improve the feel of that, using that camera quite a bit. And I think between the ZF and the ZFC, I would be fine with either one. I think I would be fine with either one. I might even prefer the ZFC because it is smaller and lighter. And the ZFC you can get dirt cheap, $700-800, I think, used. The Z30 I'm not a fan of because there's no EVF, but it is a nice little compact camera. XMeta is saying, how's the Pentax AF experience? Ooh, I haven't taken it out in a week. I took it out last week. Trying to remember. It's getting better. I'm getting better with the AF. I'm getting better at turning the little light on so I can see the focus point. I'm getting better at moving the focus point around and choosing the right focus point. So on the user side for the AF, I'm getting better. So my overall AF experience is improving. That said, it's still not as good as my mirrorless cameras. Like I really miss being able to go focus outside of that little center area that it can focus on. I didn't think I would focus that much outside of the center area. But what I'm finding is when I'm doing sort of wider shots, and you do that typical focus about 1/3 of the distance, I'm finding I have to choose SAF, focus closer in and recompose and go up. So unlike in a mirrorless camera, right, I can just point the focus point all the way towards the bottom of the frame or wherever I want it to and not outside the center point. But I would say my autofocus experience is improving as my skill set with that camera, because you start to develop muscle memory and habits when you use a camera, and that's improving a lot. And I can tell you, I just love the tonality I'm getting from that camera. And time to time, I think about getting a Pentax K1 because you can get the Mark one for like $1,000 or less. I think about it sometimes. That's a camera I could buy. I already have lenses for, so I wouldn't have to buy any lenses for it. I might get that 70 millimeter. I hear the 70, I forget what exactly, it's like 77, but anyway, it's that 70 millimeter uh, prime limited that I hear is magical. And the images I've seen people take with it look magical. That lens looks amazing. And this goes back to sort of how I feel about cameras now is a lot of times I'll go into a camera system because of the lenses, like the L mount. I would not go into the L mount system if it were not for the amazing glass that you can get at a really reasonable price. The Pentax has a couple of signature lenses that people rave about the magical qualities of that I can't appreciate as much on a monochrome camera. I think I would appreciate the magic more on a color camera. And if I can get a K1 for 1,000 or less, uh, that that might be okay. And so I would get that plus the 70 millimeter and shoot. It's just a little bit of a long focal length for me. I don't like shooting that long. It's not quite like an 85, but it's not exactly a 50 either, right? uh, so that's very, very low priority because I'm just loving the K3 that I have monochrome that I can hold off on a K1. And if the S1R ever gets down to 1,000, the K1 is out. I probably will never buy one. But if the S1R, and it's because of the lenses I can get for the S1R, but if the S1R stays at that $2,000 price point, give or take, I will never get into that system. I mean, hell, you can buy a Leica SL2 for like $2,600. Why would I pay $2,000 for an S1R when a Leica is that close? There's no way. If I wanted the Leica, I would just buy the Leica and forget about the S1R. I don't really want the Leica because it doesn't have as many features as the S1R. But some people argue that it has better image quality than the S1R. Something to do with the micro lenses or something. I don't know. But I saw some side-by-side images that justified the SL2 over the S1R. Not enough that I would not enough that I would still want. How can I articulate this? I'd still get the S1R because the jump in quality was not enough that I wanted to spend that much more and compromise the feature set that you get with the S1R because the S1R is packed full of stuff, where the SL2 is really not packed that much. It's a fine camera and probably does take better pictures than the S1R, even though it's the same sensor, right? But that difference in quality doesn't offset the number of features that I can get in S1R. So I have a problem. I dropped a telephoto zoom lens and the whole glass end snapped off the plastic. Could I just use some plastic weld to fuse it back together? You can try. I mean, at this point, you got nothing to lose, right? So what you can do is hold the lens on the front, assuming that you can fit it on and have the exact, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Assuming that the distance hasn't changed. I'm not expressing that correctly, but just put it on the front and see if it'll focus. And if you get sharp photos still, yeah, just glue it back on. Why not? Right? You got nothing to lose. Yep. Saw one for 1,200 and didn't jump on it. I know, Blaine. It's like 1,200 sound. back then 1200, like 6 months ago, I was like 1200. I've seen some for 1,000. I'll get it when I can find one for 1,000. And then it went. Then I saw some at 15 and 1,600. I was like, oh, these guys are crazy. They'll never get that money, right? Nobody's gonna pay 15 or 16. And then next thing you know, it's like $1,900, and I'm like, what the hell, man? The S1R. The L mount does sound inviting. Yeah, you know, I'm splitting hairs. The image quality is amazing, and the images I got from my S1R, one of my favorite pictures is of Ellie is from an S1R, and it's not even focused right. Of course, right? The focus on the S1R is not great, but it's still rendered such a beautiful image. I'm gonna find it. I will find it. With any luck, I put it in a project that I can just find it very quickly. Nope. What is this camera? That's a... These are my compacts. Well, I'm not going to be able to find it that quickly. This is what, the Canon PowerShot ELPH 180. I don't know why this is selling. This was selling for like $200-300. I only paid like $100 for it, brand new. And now it's selling for like crazy money. These little pocket cameras. That's not a bad picture of Ellie. And this one is the Olympus. This is a nice little camera. This camera. Let's see. Look at how small these are. This is the Olympus SC30. I just love this. Reminds me of Battlestar Galactica. The Cylons. I don't know why, but I love this little camera. And this is the Canon ELPH 180. Just a little compact pocket camera. So this one sells for nothing now, like $50 or something. But this one they want, last time I looked, this was a few months ago. Last time I looked, they wanted a few $100s for this thing. I don't know what they're asking for it now. Let me see. Canon ELPH 180. They've lost their mind. So $200, yeah. Here's one for 87, but that's fake. Etsy, I don't believe that, but this looks right. This looks like the going rate. I mean, these brand new, I think, retailed for plus $40 shipping. So this is really $220. And mine is in better shape than this. Anyhow, I got mine, like, it was on sale or something. I paid $110 maybe. I don't remember exactly. But this is like shirt pocket kind of size. So is this one, this little XZ2. This is a really cool camera. Let's see if it's got power. Yep, it's working. Had a little tone when it came on. Remember when cameras used to do that? Let me turn it on, see if you can hear it. And then it has the Olympus logo. It has macro mode, phase, it has everything. Let's see what else it has. 16 megapixels, image stabilizer, 1080p video. Wow, I didn't know it had that. USB connection. It doesn't shoot RAW though. ESP, spot metering, digital zoom. The optical zoom is pretty good too though. See, it zooms out. I forget what the equivalent is, but there. Nice shot. Okay. Oh, I saw that one. Could be a YouTube issue. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. You know, when I watch Robin Wong's or Jimmy Chang's streams, do they freeze up too? If they're not freezing up for you guys, then it's me, right? There's something with my connection here. And John Follows came in. Let's see. And John says, yes, the leather half case improves the feel of the ZFC. Okay, good. Good to know, which I suspect, because it really made a difference on my LX100. I mean, those already felt good already, but putting a leather case on it was nice. My EM5 Mark II, I put a half leather case. I love it. Half leather case on my Pen F. I just love the half leather case now. And then other than price, hi Thomas, how are you? Other than price, what are the advantage, disadvantage of using a magnifying lens versus extension tube? Okay, well, in my brief testing, the magnifying lens, the one that I got, was higher quality than using extension tube. Because there's the argument that using an extension tube, because there's no glass in there, there's no degradation in image quality, and that's false. There is a slight degradation in image quality because you're changing the optical design of the lens. You're changing what it was designed to do something else. So you can see a difference, not so much in the center. The center sharpness still looks really good, but out to the corners, using the optical multiplier, the one that I used, was tack sharp, just like the original lens, just like the lens being mounted to the camera. But when I use the extension tubes, you do see the corners start to get a little bit off. Not a big deal with macro photography. Usually you're cropping in anyway, but that's one of the things. The other thing is with the magnifying glass, it uses clips to snap onto the front of the lens. So I can just clip that on, do a few close-up shots, and then take it off and put it back in my bag. It's very easy. I don't have to dismount and mount the lens. So workflow is 100 times better, right? Just clipping that on the front, on and off. It's just like taking a lens cap on and off. It's that simple to add the optical thing. So the workflow is improved, and optically it's better. Versus extension tubes, the workflow is not great, and mounting and dismounting, because you're mounting and dismounting the lens, and then optically there are some compromises there. As minute as they are, it's not that big a deal, the optical differences, but I did see an optical difference between using the lens. And the one that I recommended, let me pull it up real quick. Let's see what the current price is, because extension tubes are about $25 now, right? So, and this page is in the links below, 20% off. So it's $32. So it's only like $8 more than if you were to buy extension tubes. And this really works well. It really works well. You just have to watch out which one you get on, because like I said, it kind of clips on and off like a lens cap. So this is the right one, I think, for most Micro Four Thirds shooters, because this will fit the 60 macro. This will fit the 25 millimeter lens. It'll fit a lot of the lenses. It's not going to fit the 40 to 150, but I have a step ring that I use to mount it. So you can get a step ring and use this on just about any micro four thirds lens. Otherwise, they sell this in a larger size. Uh, I might have, yeah, that's this one. This one does 55 to 72. And this has a 30% coupon. So this is actually $28. So this is about the same price as extension tubes. So if you're going to use this like on your 40 to 150 kit lens or 12 to 40 Pro or something like that, then this is the one you want to get. Because this would be great on a 12 to 40 Pro or 12 to 45 Pro or the 40 to 150 kit lens, the 75 to 100, the 75 millimeter prime. This will fit a lot of different lenses. But good to see you, Thomas. Oh, you got a cheap leather half case. Cool. Cool. I'm trying to see if I had that on my deal page. I have the ones for the LX100 and the Pen F. I'm sorry, and the EM5. The one for the ZFC went on sale also for like $18 or something. And John Follows is here. Hi from the UK. I've tried the ZFC for a few months and it reminded me of the MFT with depth of field advantages. Nikon do a nice job, do a nice range of APS-C lenses which are equally compact. Good camera. Okay, good to know. I didn't think their APS-C lenses were flushed out yet though. I haven't looked that hard, but from what I remember, they only had a couple of zooms, but maybe that's expanded a lot since the last time I looked. And then XMeta says, magnification lenses can be attached to compact camera too and enjoy deeper depth of field with smaller sensor. Extension tube, cube, or macro televerter cannot. Good to have both. Oh, well, that's a really, I can always count on XMeta to really flush out the conversation, right? Just like all of you. But XMeta has consistently come in and expanded into, you know, like in the comments section on one of my videos about flash duration. That was, you know, definitely a valid point. But I wasn't betting on anybody that had flashes that had durations of half a second, you know. Most camera flashes that consumers buy, like on-camera flashes, their flash durations are like 1/400th, 1/800th. Like the SB900 has a flash duration of 1/800th of a second at full power. So, you know, we're really far away from a half second. But you made a very valid point, basically correcting me or elaborating on something I stated in one of my videos. So I do need to qualify some things sometimes when I say something in a video. Because in that video I said flash, you know, shutter speed doesn't affect the flash light, right? The flash output, meaning how much light hits the subject. But if your flash duration is longer than your shutter speed, then yeah, definitely it will have an impact, your shutter speed. Okay, and hey Rob, I recently got the M1 Mark II because of all your videos. Really enjoying it so far with the 45-1.8, the 12 to 42-8. Thanks for all your quality videos and everything you do for them. Oh, well, thank you, Ben. I try. I try. And I do it because I love the system. I want to support people that use the system so they can enjoy it as much as I do, you know? And ultimately, long term, you know, that'll help OM Systems to stay in business and continue to give us these great cameras and lenses. I would love the system to last my lifetime, at the very least, continuing innovating and delivering products that we can all enjoy. So I do it, number one, because a lot of us have already spent the money to buy into the system, and I want you to enjoy it. And number two, if you enjoy it, others will enjoy it, and ultimately that will be to the benefit of OM Systems to deliver us. Because if they were doing really well, right, we would have a Pen F2 long time ago. No question. But they can't take that kind of risk, I assume, in this market, because they're just not selling enough cameras to justify, doing something a little bit risky. Yes, limited zooms, but fair amount of primes. Okay. Yeah, I haven't even looked. Uh, I have a Fuji system, so I'm kind of set with APS-C. I'm pretty content with that APS-C system. But this is why I keep looking at full frame S1R, because I'm not content with my Sony A7R5. I love the Nikon, my Nikon DF full frame 16 megapixel system, but I have to use pretty much all, I try to use all native glass, and it's hard to find good glass. Well, that's not true either. I love the Nikon DF. I love shooting with it. The 24-85 f3.5. That lens, this system right here. Unfortunately, this is kind of pricey now. They're asking like $1,200 for a DF these days. This should be a $500 camera, but they're asking $1,200. That's too much. But this lens I got for, I think, $180 or something. I didn't pay much for this lens. I got it on eBay, of course. 24-85 f3.5 to 4.5 VR. If you have a Nikon F-mount camera body, if you're getting into it, you got to get this lens. You got to get this lens. This lens is freaking amazing. And I love my 51.4, AI lens, and my 135 3.5, my 105 2.5. There's a lot of great lenses for the Nikon F mount that you can get pretty cheap. But I don't have like a modern mirrorless full frame camera that I'm happy with. I have an A7R5. Maybe I need to shoot with it more, but I'm not crazy about the lenses that I can get for it at the price points that I can really afford for it. The exception being the 55mm Zeiss. If I could get more lenses with that kind of quality, and that was not cheap, that lens. I paid $450 for it used. And if I could continue to get lenses like that at like $300 or less, I would probably stay with the A7R5. Like, I would use it more. But to get the lenses that I would want to consider, they're really pricey. And even then, I don't know if I like those lenses. They might be a little bit too clinical. And the stuff that Viltrox and Seven Artisans sends me sometimes, they're very good lenses, but they don't have that magic like my 55mm Zeiss. I hesitate to say it has 3D pop, because I don't know what the hell that is, but it does have a certain magical rendering to it. Just like that Nikon DF with that lens, the 24-85 is magical. The 51.4 AI, the 105 2.5, these are all magical lenses. But I don't have a modern digital mirrorless camera Unlike the Panasonic S1R, when I paired it with that 51.8, I was just so impressed. So impressed with that lens. And X-Meta says, I use the magnification glass on my XZ1 and XZ2 at work taking details of PCBs because normal super macro mode does turn off flash. Oh, wow. That's a good point. You know, it reinforces how you can use the snap-on macro lenses on just about any camera. I didn't even think about using it on an XZ2. I have an XZ2, which is a great camera. And yes, I'm happy with the DF and D750 if full frame is needed, but these days smaller and lighter are kinder to me. Yeah. And David Crook says, thanks. Well, you're welcome. Did my chat jump way up? But I'm glad to see you're doing well, David. And Blaine says, I want to get into Nikon Z, but I'm not willing to sell any of my MFT lenses or cameras to do it. All I want are a couple of primes, and they're 100 or 400 or 400 f5. I don't know if I'd use it enough. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm in a weird position of no kids, family, wife, nothing. Just Ellie, my dog. So if I spend money, if I go into debt to buy a camera, I got nobody to harass me about it. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, I'd love to get that. The Z8 is probably the most compelling camera for me from Nikon. It just, even at $3,500 on sale, it's just too much, and used is about the same. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not like the Sony. I bought that for like just under 3,000. I paid like 29 and change back over a year ago when they were still selling for like 4,000. So I got such a good deal, and I had so much gas for, no, I wouldn't call it gas, it was FOMO, right? I wanted a high resolution camera. So all this stuff played into, and I knew I would get a bunch of lenses from the various manufacturers for free. So I was like, I got nothing to lose, you know? But I, you guys know me. I'm not happy. I'm not happy with that camera. There's nothing wrong with it. The focus is really, yeah, Sony autofocus, yeah, it lives up to expectations. And the image quality is excellent. But just using the camera day to day, it just feels like a piece of technology. It doesn't feel like, it just has no soul for me. And this goes back to one of the earliest questions I answered about being an enthusiast. Is I love the gear as much as I love the craft, but somehow that camera, even though it has a lot of stuff is kind of awkward. It just doesn't. It just is awkward, even though I never use it, hardly even in my OM1 high res shot mode. If I want to use it in my OM1, it's a push of a button. It's easy. A7R5 is a major pain in the butt to use high-res shot mode, so I'll never use it. Not that I need it. I got 60 megapixels, but I don't care about that. I care about the gear being able to do what it's supposed to do. And so I don't care about the photography side when it comes to the tech. I want the tech to be an OM1 high-res shot mode is so, and the S1R equally in terms of high-res shot mode. The workflow was seamless, and the results were amazing. Can't say that about the A7R5. Even though a single shot from an A7R5 is sharper than single shots from anything else, than high res shot modes in the OM1. Anyway, I've already covered that. No, 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 Nikon Z8. You started collecting Pentax. I know. No, Z8 is way, way out. It's on my radar, but it's like way out, like UFO land. The K1 is much closer in my radar than a Z8, and I would say, because with the K1, I'd only have to buy one more lens, and that would be like that 77 millimeter or whatever that weird focal length is, and I'd be done. But I'm mildly tempted by a Z1 Mark One because I can get those for 1,000. But then, yeah, I'd have to get into all the lenses. Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys. I think I'll call it here. I'm running out of steam, and I got guests coming over within the hour, so I gotta, clean the house a little bit too, and turn the heat on. And then Robin says, I like having the top cover for taking pictures. Just use the lower half. Oh, sorry. This says, I adapt other brand full cases to EM1 Mark II and OM1 by moving the mounting point of the screw to match the tripod socket. I like top cover for taking pictures, just EM1. And then you corrected that edit. I like having the top cover for taking pictures. I just use the lower half. So confused, Robin, what you mean here. But that's just me. Like I said, I burned out last night doing the event because of my migraine, and then I'm running out of little steam here. The coffee, I mentioned this last week. This coffee I'm drinking now just has no caffeine in it. It doesn't say it's decaffeinated, but I can tell you it's practically decaffeinated. There's hardly any caffeine in it. So I need to get another cup of coffee and get ready for my guests.
Someone was detected at your front door.
Oh, they're here. So I didn't get a chance to clean. Thanks everyone for being here. It's great seeing you guys. I will be back Tuesday for my shopping stream. Join me there. Happy holidays. I hope everyone has a terrific Christmas and New Year if I don't see you again. But thanks for being here today, and I'll see you again